Welcome to the Comeback Season podcast, where we bridge the gap between where you are and where you're meant to be. We created this platform to be a place where you can land during your hardest seasons of life and feel fully supported as you rebuild. This show is rooted in the belief that the true comeback requires a foundation of a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a regulated nervous system. I'm your host, Christi Kelsey, a transformational macro coach who helps women over 40 use nutrition, strength training, and mindset tools to lose fat, build muscle, and feel confident in their bodies again. Today, I'm joined by Donna Riccardo, a professional speaker, trainer, author, and public speaking coach who helps women entrepreneurs show up with more confidence, clarity, and impact. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, Christy. Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being our guest today. I'm really excited for this conversation. This is a little different than our usual topic, but I would love for you to start with telling us a little bit more about who you are and how you got into doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I can bring in your topic into this topic, so we can go there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'm a, like you said, speaker trainer, and coach, and I differentiate those because coaching to me is a little bit more one-to-one,
Mhm.
and the training is more group. So that's why, so I do both. And oftentimes during the training, I'm coaching, but so that's why I say it like that. And then best-selling author on public speaking.
Mm.
And I got started because I wanted to help. At the time in my former career, I was a hair cutter, a hair cutting specialist in a high end hair salon in New York City. And I wanted to help other hairdressers who didn't do what I had done, which was move to the city, get this rigorous training for over 2 years, and and then elevate everything from there. And that was not the kind of training that was readily available to just normal people, normal hairdressers. So I had actually searched around for about 3 years looking for more training out of school, and ended up that all led to ending up in New York and getting that training finally. And I thought, you know what, people aren't going to do this. I mean, some do, but most don't, and I want to be able to bring it to them. And my first couple of experiences getting out there to do some teaching did not go well. Did
Mm.
not go well. And I had a very strong desire, and I had to be rescued on stage. I froze. I went mute. I lost a good job opportunity. I mean, a lot of things did not go well. And I
Mhm.
realized I can learn this. It's mostly people in the beauty business, at least at that time, they men with really big personalities, and they're talking to mostly women, and they're up on the stage, and they're throwing hair all around and flirting with the audience, and doing a big dog and pony show, and and I'm not any of that. So it never occurred to me I could go learn. So I did. And that, fast forward led to it becoming a business where we are
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So, how has public speaking in general changed who you are?
It absolutely did, because I started out like most people do, essentially, what do I do with my hands? That's
Hmm.
what probably the number one question I get. And I started out with mechanics, and I joined Toastmasters at first. And that led really to more personal development. And it's people, I think, need to know that public speaking is a personal development journey. And I will even go so far as to say, because for me, it was also a spiritual journey.
Mm.
So that was the path.
Yeah. We talk a lot about comebacks, thus the name, the comeback season. Comebacks. A comeback can be anything for a woman in midlife. We talk about career change or relationship change, empty nesting, hormones, all kinds of things where we just have this shift or this pivot in midlife. And not that midlife is the only time that this happens, but it's just a lot is happening in our lives at this time. Some people are healing, some people are rebuilding. There's all kinds of things going on, and sometimes you can lose some of your confidence in who you are. Sometimes we forget who we are, our identity. And I think that this is so important for finding our voice again, being able to speak up in a room or tell our story or even start something new, helping other women. Um, how have you been able to see, like, give us an example of somebody that you've helped, what their situation was, and how public speaking helped them with their comeback?
Yeah, I mean, they usually come to me in the beginning with, what do I do with my hands?
Mm.
And what they want is confidence, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of times people think it's not uncommon for people to think that when I get the confidence, then I'll speak. But
Mm.
that is not how it works.
Mhm.
Not how it works. I say you have to have a strong desire to break through any uncertainty. And that uncertainty can go as deep as fear. And it can
Mhm.
go as deep as it did for me, debilitating fear.
Mm.
And dealing with that and growing through that and working through that is, really how I came to get the confidence. And so since I've been through all that, and I even worked for a personal development company, I can help them with that level of discomfort, with depending, whichever way, however much it is, from as simple as preparation to which gives people confidence, to feeling more confident in any situation where they might have to speak. And so somebody that I'm just thinking of, Erin, who came to me. She just, she was nervous. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know where to begin. And she went through my 6-week program. And at the end, she says, now I have so much confidence. She says,
Mm.
and she went out and she started speaking right away. Like one of her first ones was to a group of 40 women at a networking event.
Mm.
So just a lot of times it is as simple as knowing what to do, like for Erin. And even though she was afraid, she still took the steps. And so I think that's the really important part. And then she's just gone on and, to do more speaking from there.
That's amazing. I think when people hear the term public speaking, they can envision a stage and a microphone, but that's not always the case, right? I mean, what counts as a public speaking
Oh,
opportunity?
absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because sometimes people will say, well, I could never do what you just said. I could never get on the stage with a microphone and talk to hundreds of people. And
Mhm.
they've never done any, right? So
Mhm.
there's this huge gap, because no one is going to bring you to speak to their hundreds of people audience if you have no experience.
Mhm.
So not to worry. You can just not worry about that and start at the beginning. And so a stage can count as seated at a networking group, in a networking group, seated at a table with up like 8 people. It can
Mhm.
count standing in an open networking scenario with 2 other people. It's where I always say public speaking counts if it's, even if it's one to one, it can be one to many or one to a large group or a big audience.
Mhm.
So it can be as little or as lot when you are speaking to another.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. It makes me think, um, like I'm just picturing a woman who's been through something difficult, feeling nervous and scared, uncertain. I like that word that you used, uncertain, maybe a little fearful. But as we practice this, practice using our voice, it makes us realize that what we have to say is important, that it has value. It has value for us to speak it, even if it doesn't have value for the person that we're speaking to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that even it does also have value for the people hearing it.
Mhm.
And it's, because no one else has anyone else's, our mine, yours, no one else has our anything, our background, our personality, our family history, our training,
Mhm.
our education, our life experiences, our view on any and all of that, right? No one else has that. And so I think to share that with others can really, one, it can connect us to others, which is so important. And two, it often can help people see something a little bit differently for themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, um I actually really like speaking when there's people in the room. Where I struggle is when, as soon as I turn my camera on my phone to record something for social media, it feels like it almost feels forced, or like I have this voice in my head that I have to say it perfectly or it's not going to go over well. Do you hear that a lot? That people get
Yes.
stuck in that thought of it has to be perfect?
Yes. Well, two things I'm hearing in that. One is, yes, they do say, it has to be perfect. And the thing about that is it's never going to be perfect.
Mhm.
It never will. Even if you write a speech and, you're giving that same one over and over again, hopefully it evolves. The more
Hmm.
you give it, the more comfortable and confident you get with it. And two, people also are afraid of being judged. Well,
Hmm.
here's what I have to say about that. You are going to be judged. Everyone does it. You do it. I do it. People do
Hmm.
it. People judge. Next.
Right. It's true. It's so true. So I don't know if we're skipping ahead too much, but when you're on a stage and you're talking to an audience, it's about connection, right? You want them to see a part of themselves in your story or feel something. Do you have any tips on how to help that connection happen?
Absolutely. I think there's a few pieces to that. One, you must be present. The
Mm,
speaker must be present and figure out if you're not really sure what that means, you need to find out. You need to
mm,
figure that out because you need to be fully 100% there and making eye contact with your audience, not flitting over the top of their head, not looking between their eyebrows. There's just some things that used to be said about for nervous eye contactors. But
mhm,
I'm sorry, you need to make contact with your audience one at a time. You're maybe speaking to many people, perhaps, but there's really only one at a time, right? Each person is an individual. So not
mhm,
to say things like yous, I'm from New Jersey, y'all,
mhm,
things like that, because there's nobody in the room by that name. And so eye contact, being present, and telling stories. And especially if you're an entrepreneur that has your business
mhm,
from your experience, you have a story. And I think it's mandatory to tell it when you're speaking because it helps people see themselves in you and know if you're their person that can help them. And the key thing about telling the story, your story, from the one that came from your experience, is you have to be done with it. You can't
mhm,
have a charge on it anymore. You can't, if it was something where you felt like or you experienced being, I hate to use this word, but people will get it, like a victim of
mhm,
something, you
mhm,
can't feel victimized. You have to be done with that. It has to be, well, that happened. And you
mhm.
can share it from that place of you've come out on the other side of it.
Right.
Because in the middle of it, if you are speaking to an audience and you're trying to share about it while you're still experiencing it, you're not really done with it, like you still want to cross the street when you see that person or that experience on the other side of the street,
Mhm,
you're not done with it. So you need to be done with it. And because otherwise it leaves the people in the audience feeling sorry for you, which is
mhm.
not what you want and not what they came for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you say it that way, because I think, what you're saying is that there's a lot of emotion still there, and maybe the growth hasn't happened yet because you're still in it and you aren't reflective about, oh, I was here and now I'm here and this is how I've grown. These are the lessons I've learned from going through this experience. Now that I'm on the other side, I can see where the lessons are in this.
Absolutely. And that's part of the growth. You mentioned that a few minutes ago. That's part of the growth and how a person gets to know themselves as the person they've always wanted to be
Mhm.
by going through that growth. And by speaking, it almost forces you
Mhm.
because you have to deal with it if you're going to be effective in front of an audience.
Mhm.
There's a lot of places where a person can stand up and just share any old way, any old how, be whatever they're feeling, not be done with it. that's where that should happen. But in
Hmm.
front of your audience, not where that should happen.
Yeah. Yes. So how, when we're speaking, how do we sound natural, not like we're reading from a script, but
Mhm.
also polished?
Sure. But there's a couple things because different people do it differently.
Hmm.
So the bottom line on any of it is you have to know your material inside and out. You just
Hmm.
have to know, you have to know your point, that you points you're going to speak about, the points you want to make, what you want to leave your audience with at the end, which
Hmm.
is the best place to start in preparing. Some
Hmm.
people like to write it all out like I do. Other people prefer bullet points. In either case, you still want to practice, 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 the three
Hmm.
P's, and time it, because you're always going to have an amount of time you're given to speak. So I think that's all really important.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. What um, what else can you teach us about public speaking?
Oh, let's see, a couple things. One that I think applies to most people, although you do one of them very, very well. Speak slower than you want to.
Mm.
You speak at a nice pitch and very calm presence and a nice calm voice. Speak slower than you want to. For most people, that's true. But even when I think I'm speaking slower, people still tell me I'm talking too fast.
Mm.
Speak slower than you want to and louder than you think you need to, because when I watch events and things I'm at and I see the speaker, I can tell when they're speaking, especially if they're not using a microphone. Always take the microphone if it's offered, by the way. But even if, especially if they're not using a microphone, I can tell their energy is only reaching, let's say, halfway through the
Mm.
room, and you
Mm.
need to reach your voice and your energy to the last person the farthest away from you. So those are a couple key things I see a lot of people do.
Yeah. I don't know if you have had this experience before, but I'm just being transparent here. This podcast is a year old, and my friend and I just started it on a whim. I had no experience before, and when we first started, oh man, it was rough. It was rough. I had to have an outline, a script. I had to have so much in front of me, but I come off so much better when it's a natural conversation. And I think I've gotten a little better over the last year, and I'm hoping that I will continue to get
Yeah.
better. But I have a really, really hard time going back and listening to what I recorded. It's hard for me
No
to
one
hear
likes
my voice.
no one
And
likes that.
I know. And when you said that I had a good pace, a good cadence, I feel like I talk so slow sometimes. And I've learned to live with that and thought, well, people can speed it up if they want to.
Yeah, it's good. And you're very present. So if you were talking slow and you were kind of checked out, that you'd lose people. But you're
Hmm.
very present. And I know if people are just listening, they can't see that, but she is. She's very present. I can see it.
Well,
And
thank you.
but the reason you feel more comfortable and polished and sound like that now is because you said it over and over and you've done it over and over for a year. So
Hmm.
that's what it takes. I mean, I used to be so terrified of people in the very early days of being a hairdresser. I don't know how I became a hairdresser. I always say it was divine intervention because I was terrified. And I couldn't even look at somebody and talk to them at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So that definitely huge growth here because I didn't like that feeling of feeling
Yeah.
stuck inside myself. And now, even with my business now, in the very beginning, I was like writing, like you said, like writing notes and what do I say and how do I say it? And I wanted it all to be just right and, make sure that it made sense and blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
And now I've said it over and over, so many of the same things, over and over again, that now I can have a more natural conversation. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine one time. She's like, "Well, Brene Brown, I'm sure she doesn't do all that preparation and all that stuff." Yes, she does, or she did, because
Uh-huh.
you don't get that polished if you don't.
Hmm. Yeah. Talk to us about more about body language You talked about
Mm,
hands and what do I do with my hands, but what else can you teach us about body language?
sure. Well, eye contact is body language, so we'll just
Mhm.
start from the top. So eye contact being body language is just have to, I don't have, this is not like a quick thing I can say. You just have to figure out how to get comfortable looking at people's eyes. So,
Mhm.
so there's that. And then from there, looking at them 3 to 5 seconds, there's different things. Maybe try some things and see what feels better. But actually looking at them 3 to 5 seconds, maybe with a complete thought, sentence, then go to the next one. And it doesn't, you don't have to go to each and every. If it's a smaller group, you might want to, because then they'll notice, right? And it might be a little odd for the ones left out. But when it's a bigger group, you don't have to, because we are all connected. And
Mhm.
when you're connected to some, everyone feels that, because as a speaker, when you're present and connected, the whole room, everyone in the room feels it. So eye contact for sure. Body language in hands, we talked a little about that. So they need to go with what you're saying. So you can't flail them all around. Sometimes when people will say, well, even if they're not, they'll go, well, I'm Italian and I use my hands a lot. And I always say, well, I am Italian, and no pass. Because if you're just waving your hands around, people are going to follow where your hands are going. So
Mhm.
they need to go with what you're saying. If you want to make a point, or if you point, never literally a point, don't ever point at your audience, point to yourself, or point up or away, but don't point at people in the audience. Some other things like arm body language that pushes people away or disconnects, like arms crossed is one. Hands on hips puts people off, because it makes people feel like that teacher, that parent that did that bossy thing. And let's see, keys and jingling things or rings or whatever, coins in pockets. That's more men do that because they usually have pockets.
Mhm.
But jingling things in pockets, not good. Props, take the hands out of the pockets, put them where people can see them. I always like to say, put your hands where I can see them, ma'am, because they say in the crime shows. Get them out of there. And let's see what else. A few others would be, there's the T-Rex, where you have your elbows glued in at your side and your wrists are up in the air, but your fingertips are flopping down, like like a T-Rex with his little baby
Uh-huh.
arms, right? So people do these things, or they glue the elbows in at the waist.
Uh-huh.
No, 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 no. So what there is to do, just let those arms hang down. And if you really know your material, you can naturally gesture with what you're saying, and then
Mhm.
let the arms go back, rather than having to move them from T-Rex to something else or whatever. Another one that people like to do is let them like they cross them palm over back of hand and hang them in front of their body, and again, that's where the hands, where the eyes go is where the hands are. So we call that one the fig leaf, because it's
Mhm.
crossed in front of your body in a strategic area. So
Mhm.
you want to avoid all of that. Let's see, for as far as legs, like more feet, a lot of people will rock back and forth, heel to toe, heel to toe. That usually you need flat shoes to do that, so men tend to do that more. Um, heel to toe, heel to toe. These are all things to be avoided. Swaying side to side like a drunken sailor, right? That's my favorite one. Swaying side to side feels really good. But
I'm
your
laughing because I've seen almost every single one of these.
yes,
And it's nervous energy, right?
it really is. It really is.
People don't
Yeah,
probably don't realize what they're doing.
they don't.
Yeah.
So that's the first part, is to become
Hmm.
aware, doing a little cha-cha, a little back and forth, back and forth.
Hmm.
So, actually, it would actually be a salsa. I'm a dancer, so it would be more of a salsa. But they
Hmm.
go back and forth, front, back, front, back. And there's a few others. Oh, women. Here's one for women that I see. I only see women do it. They cross their legs in front of them like this, like one foot, one leg crossed over the
Uh-huh.
other. And again, that's a holding people out, disconnecting from people. So all is to be avoided. So then you might think, well, what do I do? Like that, that's everything I want to do, or,
Mhm.
or feel like it. I'm just going to stand here. Well, that doesn't work either, because even that takes energy to do that. And that's nervous. And I've seen people do that where they just stand rigidly in one place because they're afraid of being wiggly. And what there is to do is relax your shoulders, let your arms hang down, feet are kind of a natural, a little bit apart from each other. You
Mhm.
might even bend your knees very slightly, just kind of feel more relaxed and just be there. And you're naturally going to move. You're going to
Mhm.
move, you can move across the speaking area if it's big enough to another side of the speaking area or stage. As you make a point, you go back to the middle, make another point, go back to the other side, make another point. So it's another thing, but like running back and forth like a caged lion, I think people do that too. Don't want to do that either, or talking a lot while you're walking, that's not so good either. So really want to make sure that your attention is on the audience
Mhm.
and deliver to them.
Yes, that's very good.
So that's a lot, but
Yeah,
there you go.
I love this though. What would you say to a woman who has something important to say or share or wants to share her story, but keeps thinking, who am I to be speaking on this? Kind of the old imposter syndrome.
Right, right. I say make sure one that whatever it is that you're done, you're complete with it, right?
Mhm.
That it's and then you're just dealing with yourself at that point and you're whatever it is that's between you and getting that thing said and just start sharing it. Maybe join Toastmasters,
Mm.
tell friends, this is what I want to start talking about. This is what I want to share. Maybe you pick one story or two stories and tell them
Mhm.
over and over. Tell people, tell other people. And that way they can hold you accountable. They can listen. You can even tell them how you want them to listen. Hey, I'm practicing this, really nervous. I want to share this with people, but I feel kind of nervous. Like, can I share it with you? No one's going to say no.
Mhm.
So people still love you afterwards as well, even after you've shared it 20 times. And they love to participate and help. People love to help and give their feedback. And if you don't want it, it's so okay to say, hey, I'd love for you to just listen to this. I'm just trying to get used to saying it and getting it out. Please
Mhm.
listen. I don't want any feedback. I love you. Thank you in advance.
Yeah. So there might be people listening to this that don't see themselves as speakers. They're not going to be on a stage or in front of an audience, but they do want to feel more confident in their home or their work or their relationships. What would you say to that woman who's been supporting everybody else in her life and she's feeling nervous about being seen?
Sure. It feels very risky. It
Mm-hmm.
does. It feels scary. It feels risky. I've been that person. And I would say you have to weigh the other side of it against the feeling of feeling afraid. I'm trying to think. I think it's Anais Nin said something like, "In the day came when the fear to remain closed tight in a bud was was the fear to bloom was greater. I don't know. It was something about like it felt scarier to stay closed than to bloom."
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So you have to weigh, I can't remember the exact quote, but you get the point. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you have to weigh against how much does that matter and are you willing to stay closed and disconnected and afraid? And that affects not only all your relationships, it affects your health
Mm-hmm.
too. So get the courage and try something here, try a little something there. Maybe take a class, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe do some, if it's something important you need to communicate with someone, maybe do some role play.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth making the effort, even if it's a little bit here, a little bit there, because that's how growth actually happens.
Yeah, I love that. I think kind of what you were saying, I've heard in a different way, but it's the fear of change is less than the fear of staying the same or something like that. Like the fear of
Yeah,
staying the same is more than greater than the fear of change. So
exactly.
sometimes we have to get to that point where you're more afraid of staying the same and
Yes,
being stuck in the same patterns than getting outside your comfort zone and trying something new.
absolutely. Yeah, that was definitely the point. Yes.
Do you have any advice on somebody who thinks this might be something I would like to try?
Mhm.
You mentioned Toastmasters. Are there any other opportunities you can think of that people can give short talks?
That's the main one. Depending on uh, if somebody has a business,
Hmm.
depends on what they want to talk about. If they just there's support groups for almost anything, right? And they'll always have an opportunity for people to share.
Yeah.
Um, there's if people want to do like shorter talks for their business, networking groups and service clubs are a great way to do it. Leads groups are another great way for a business. They're another great way because you usually have a small amount of time to speak in front of the people in the group. Sometimes people like that. I did that for quite a long time, and sometimes people like to go to those leads groups because it was, even though there might be a lot of people. I think the one I was in had 40 some people, but it was the same people. So they, even though it was what seemed like a lot of people, they got comfortable because it was the same people. So that's another thing. Some people will grow or feel more comfortable if they speak in front of the same people. So that's another way to do it, and take the risk to share something you might not normally share.
Mm.
And you may be surprised. I would say I was surprised at any rate. When it's so scary. I can remember when I was going through this in the beginning of starting to deal with all of it, and it would be so scary to think about saying something to that person, and I'd be so afraid of their reaction, which is usually what people are afraid of. I'd be so afraid of their reaction, and then I'd say it, and it would not. There would be like no reaction, or or very little, or something else. Rarely was it what I was afraid of.
Yeah. Well, this has been so great. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, I did want to touch on the health aspect because
Okay,
that's what you
sure,
do.
yeah.
And it's very brief, really. It's if you're going to be a speaker, you need to be well because you need to be in front of your audience. That you can't have them concerned about your health.
Mm-hmm.
Be well and look well.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very good point. Well, thanks for being with us today, Donna. Tell our audience where they can find you.
Well, Chrissy, the best place is showupspeakup.com. You'll get some tips, and they're not ordinary tips. These are tips that I gathered because you can get ordinary tips anywhere. These
Mm-hmm.
are tips that I gathered from seeing very experienced speakers speak and seeing them do something that just lost the audience, or that I was offended by, or something that really they just lost a potential client because they did that thing, or just things like that. So even an experienced speaker can go to another level because they could be doing these things, because that's who I saw doing them. And new speakers, even everyday people, if you're not a speaker in everyday life, because you are speaking in everyday life, so you can bring any of these things to those and have better connections with people. You can practice them all the time, and they will make even a new speaker look, feel, sound more confident and more polished right away. So showupspeakup.com. And you can find me on any social. I'm pretty easy. My website, everything's in my name, so I'm also findable like that. But grab the tips because I think you'll appreciate them.
Yeah. And is that the same as your free resource that you have for our audience?
That is it. Yeah, that's
Okay,
my free resource.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, I look forward to that. I loved our conversation today, and if you are listening and you have a story to tell, and I know you do, I encourage you to share it, share your story. You have no idea how many people you can impact or help when you share what you've learned through your experience. Thank you for tuning in to the comeback season. Our mission is to help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you are meant to be by strengthening your mindset, fueling your body, and creating habits that support lasting change. Remember, your comeback is built one choice at a time. Keep showing up for yourself, keep taking the next step, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the comeback season. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.